My name is Rebecca Chan, and for the longest time I believed I was living the perfect life. I was 36, a successful interior designer living in a loft apartment in Chicago with my husband David, an investment banker whose smile could make my worst days disappear. He had a way of holding my hand that felt like safety. Every morning started with coffee delivered to my bedside and a kiss on the cheek. Every evening ended with him saying, "You're everything to me." I believed him. Until one night, everything shattered. It was close to 1 a.m. I woke up to an empty bed. At first, I assumed David had gone downstairs for water or to check his email. I rolled over, planning to drift back to sleep. Then I heard it, his voice. It was coming from the study. Low, serious, measured. "She's completely oblivious," he said. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. The air felt heavy and my heart started hammering against my ribs. "Everything's progressing exactly as planned. Just a few more weeks," he continued. I sat up slowly, listening harder. I tiptoed to the hallway, pressing myself flat against the wall near the study door. A sliver of light escaped through the gap. I could barely make out the rest, but I didn't need to. I had heard enough. I crept back to bed, lying perfectly still, pretending to sleep when David returned minutes later. He slipped under the covers with practiced ease, pulling the blanket over us like he hadn't just destroyed my entire world. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared into the darkness, my mind spinning. I didn't know what he was planning, but I knew one thing for certain: my husband was hiding something, and it involved me. The next morning, I moved through the kitchen like I was underwater. David was still asleep, his breathing deep and even. I stood at the kitchen counter, my hands shaking as I reached for my phone. Until that moment, I had never once checked our accounts. David always managed everything: bills, investments, portfolios. I trusted him. I thought that was what a good marriage looked like. But trust, I was learning, could be the fastest path to losing everything. I opened the banking app. My stomach dropped. Transaction after transaction scrolled across the screen. $800 here, $1,500 there, $600, $2,500. Dozens of withdrawals over the past 4 months. Nothing massive on its own, but together they told a story, a very disturbing one. I gripped the counter edge, trying to steady my breathing. Then came the voice behind me. "Up early?" David's tone was casual, but I caught the flash of surprise in his eyes as he leaned against the doorframe, running his hand through his hair. "Just checking something," I said, forcing my voice to sound normal. "Some of these transactions look strange." He walked over, poured himself a cup of coffee, and gave me a practiced smile. "Oh, those? Just some business investments. Must have forgotten to mention them." He took a sip without looking at me. Something inside me crystallized. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was something colder, something clearer. I nodded slowly, pretending to accept his explanation. But I was watching him now, not with love, not with trust, but with sharp awareness. Every casual dismissal, every deflection was another crack in the facade I had once believed was real. That night, I noticed more. He was glued to his phone constantly, always turning the screen away, always stepping onto the balcony to take calls. And when I asked what project he was working on, he would smile and say, "Just numbers. Nothing you need to worry about." But I was worried, deeply. And that worry was hardening into determination. I wasn't going to wait around to discover what he was planning. I needed answers, and I needed them immediately. 2 days later, I got my opportunity. It was a quiet Thursday evening. David had just finished dinner and announced he was going to take a shower. Normally, he carried his phone everywhere like it was surgically attached to his hand. But tonight, for the first time, he left it on the coffee table. I stared at it. My pulse thundered in my ears like a warning siren. I waited 30 seconds, then 60. I heard the water running upstairs. I reached for it. His phone was unlocked. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through recent messages. Most were mundane, work emails, casual texts. But then one conversation stood out. No contact name, just a number. The most recent message read, "Transfer the Camden documents. Keep her completely unaware." Almost finished. I froze. I read it again, then once more, my mind racing. Camden documents? Keep her unaware? Who was her? Was it me? Was he sending someone information about me? Nausea rolled through my stomach. I placed the phone back exactly where he'd left it, careful not to move anything. Then I walked to the kitchen, splashed cold water on my face, and tried to control my breathing. The shower was still running. I had a few more minutes, but I couldn't stop my thoughts from spiraling. David wasn't just lying. He wasn't just hiding money. He was orchestrating something significant, and I was the target. Later that night, when he climbed into bed, he kissed my temple like always. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. I nodded and smiled faintly. "Just tired." Inside, I was screaming. He didn't know that I had seen the message. He still believed I was clueless. That was his mistake. And I planned to use it. The next morning, as soon as David left for the office, I called Lauren. Lauren Martinez wasn't just my closest friend from graduate school, she was also a brilliant trust attorney. We had stayed in touch over the years, meeting for lunch quarterly. I never imagined I'd be calling her like this. When she answered, I didn't waste time. My voice shook as I told her everything, David's midnight whispers, the hidden transactions, the message about the Camden documents. She listened quietly. When I finished, she asked just one question. "How much money are we talking about?" "Close to $600,000, I said. There was a pause. Then her voice came back, firm and decisive. "Rebecca, we need to move your assets immediately." I felt my legs weaken. I sat on the edge of the sofa. "Are you certain?" I whispered. "Yes. If you wait, he'll execute whatever he's planning. We'll establish a trust in your name. It'll be legally protected. He won't be able to touch a penny." I swallowed hard. The loft, the savings, the design firm profits, the investment accounts, everything I had built was at stake. "I'm in," I said. The next 72 hours were a whirlwind of paperwork, signatures, and strategy sessions. Lauren worked relentlessly. She brought in her team. We moved the loft title into the trust, locked down the investment portfolios, and transferred every asset under my personal legal protection. By the time David came home on the third evening, I had done what I never thought I'd have to do, defend myself from the man I once trusted with everything. He walked through the door carrying sushi, wearing his usual charming expression. "Thought we'd have a quiet dinner tonight," he said cheerfully. I nodded and took the bag from his hands. He had no idea everything had changed. The documents were signed, the money secured, the walls built. He could attempt whatever scheme he wanted, but he would never touch my assets again. And I wasn't going to warn him. Let him believe I was still in the dark. Let him make the next move. Because now I was ready. 4 days later, David made his move. It was a Monday evening. He came home earlier than usual, dressed in one of his expensive suits. He looked composed, almost confident as he set his briefcase down and sat across from me at the dining table. "We need to talk," he said, sliding a folder toward me. I didn't react. I opened it slowly, revealing the contents inside. Divorce papers. "I think this is the right decision," he continued, his voice rehearsed. "We've drifted apart. I don't want this to become more complicated." I looked up at him, keeping my expression neutral. "Really?" I asked. He hesitated for just a second, long enough for me to catch the uncertainty flashing behind his eyes. Then he nodded. "Yes. It's better this way." I took a breath and slid the folder back toward him. "Before we proceed, there's something you should know." His eyebrows drew together. What? I leaned forward slightly. My voice was calm, clear, and measured. I've already moved everything. He blinked. What? The loft, the accounts, the business revenue, all of it. It's in a protected trust now. You can't access it. The color drained from his face. What do you mean? I mean, I said, my tone unwavering, you don't get to walk in here, hand me divorce papers, and walk away with half of my life. His jaw clenched, his hand tightening around the edge of the folder. You can't do that. I already did. He stared at me for a long moment, searching for some sign of weakness. But I didn't give him one. You were right about one thing, I said quietly. Things change. He pushed back from the table slowly, rising. We'll see each other in court, he said, his voice cold and hard. I smiled and stood too. Then try it. See how that works out. He walked out of the room. And for the first time in weeks, I exhaled. Because now he knew. I wasn't the woman he could manipulate anymore. I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. 3 days after David stormed out, I noticed something disturbing at my design studio. Whispers. Sideways glances. Colleagues who usually greeted me warmly suddenly avoided conversation. It wasn't paranoia. It was too consistent. Then my studio manager, Kim, walked into my office, her face pale, holding a printout. I think you need to see this. It was a screenshot from an anonymous business forum. A post titled, Designer Embezzles Client Funds During Messy Divorce. Below was a paragraph accusing an unnamed interior designer of stealing from clients to hide money in a divorce, suggesting criminal behavior. In the comments, someone had made it explicit, I know who it is. Rebecca Chun. Look into her firm. I felt the blood drain from my face. David. He was behind this. I could feel it in every cell of my body. He's trying to destroy me, I whispered. Kim nodded grimly. If this spreads, it could ruin your reputation. Or worse. I stood up, pacing the room. I had spent years building my firm, my credibility. I had earned every client through hard work and integrity. No shortcuts. No favors. And now, one lie could tear it all down. I need to call Lauren, I said, grabbing my phone. That evening, I sat across from Lauren at her office. She listened as I explained what was happening, my voice shaking with equal parts fear and fury. This isn't just personal anymore, I said. He's trying to destroy me professionally. Lauren leaned back, fingers steepled. He's playing dirty, she said. Trying to pressure you into a settlement. He wants to scare you into giving up. I looked her straight in the eye. I'm not backing down. She nodded, already drafting a letter. First step, cease and desist. If he continues, we'll sue for defamation and reputational damages. A small spark of hope ignited inside me. He wanted to break me with lies. But he had underestimated one thing. I wasn't afraid of the truth. And I wasn't going anywhere. Just when I thought I had seen all of David's tactics, he went even lower. 3 days later, Lauren called me into her office. Her tone was clipped. Serious. He just filed a lawsuit, she said as I walked in. He's accusing you of financial fraud. My heart sank. What? He claims you illegally moved marital assets. He's alleging you embezzled funds from your joint accounts. I slumped into the chair across from her. He can't be serious. He is. And there's more, Lauren said grimly. She slid a file across the desk. He's not alone. He filed with a co-plaintiff. I opened the folder. The name hit me like a physical blow. Camden. It was the name from the text message. The one I had read on David's phone. Who is he? I asked. Lauren crossed her arms. A known financial fraudster. He's been linked to multiple cases involving forged financial documents. No convictions yet, but a long trail of suspicion. I flipped through the documents. They were detailed, filled with numbers and fabricated transactions, some even mimicking my signature. "These aren't mine," I said, my voice rising. "These are complete fabrications." Lauren nodded. "We know. But we have to prove it. And fast." My hands clenched into fists. All the fear I'd been carrying transformed into fire. "He's trying to bury me in lies." Lauren's eyes narrowed. "Then let's make sure those lies collapse on top of him." She handed the file to a forensic accounting expert. For the next week, we worked non-stop, gathering real transaction records, tracing digital footprints, verifying every move I had made. I barely slept, but I kept going. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about my name, my integrity, and my right to defend what was mine. By the end of the week, we had everything we needed. The expert traced the false documents to Camden's firm. The dates didn't align. The signatures were forged. And most importantly, there was no paper trail connecting those fake transactions to any of my real accounts. David had thrown everything he had at me. But the truth was stronger. And it was on my side. A month later, we walked into court. Lauren was calm, sharp as ever. I sat beside her, dressed in charcoal gray, my shoulders back, my hands steady. Across the room, David looked like a shadow of the man I once knew, angry, nervous, unprepared. The judge reviewed the case carefully. Our documentation was airtight. Camden never appeared. The moment the ruling was read aloud, I closed my eyes, not out of relief, but out of finality. The court dismissed David's claims. He was denied access to any part of my trust. His defamation tactics backfired, and instead of gaining anything, he was ordered to cover my legal fees. After the hearing, he tried to approach me in the hallway. "You didn't have to do this," he said, voice low. I looked him straight in the eye. "No, David. You didn't have to do this." Then I walked away for good. In the weeks that followed, I picked up the pieces of my life slowly, carefully. I returned to my design work. I took long walks along Lake Michigan. I let the quiet replace the chaos. I didn't celebrate. I reflected. Because victory doesn't always feel like joy. Sometimes it feels like peace after a storm. Sometimes it's just the absence of fear. I learned something through all of this. Something every woman should know. Trust is a gift, but control over your life is a right. No matter how loving someone seems, never hand over your power blindly. Know your worth. Protect your future. Be willing to act before it's too late. And if someone ever tries to break you with betrayal, stand. Stand and let the truth speak louder than revenge. If you're still listening, thank you. And if this story resonated with you, share it, like, comment, let others know they're not alone. Because strength isn't just surviving the storm. It's learning how to own the sky afterward.